instantly smacked in the face with photos of everyone else's squad. You can practically hear the glasses clinking, you see these huge group selfies, and of course, they're all accompanied by some cheesy caption like, "Besties forever." Look, be honest, do you ever feel just a tiny sting when you see that? Society is constantly whispering in our ears that this, the big group, the constant noise, is the absolute peak of human existence. But what if you're sitting alone in your room, your phone hasn't dinged in 2 days, and honestly, the mere thought of replying to a group chat just completely drains your energy? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to absolutely smash some ridiculous stereotypes about loners and dive deep into the fascinating science of why you might actually be playing a completely different and maybe even a much more powerful game. You know, if you tell someone you don't really have a crew, they usually slap a label right on your forehead. They'll call you a weirdo, say you're depressed, or claim you just have terrible social skills. They basically assume there's a glitch in your system. But we need to seriously question that stereotype. Why is it that some people literally go into a state of total panic when they're left alone for 5 minutes, while you might feel this profound, amazing sense of relief? To figure out why people view solitude as a failure, and to understand our own reactions to it, we actually have to step outside of modern society for a second and look at the raw, evolutionary reality behind our fear of isolation. To get to the root of this whole thing, we need to rewind the clock way, way back, about 200,000 years back. That's right around when our ancestors, Homo sapiens, first appeared and started wiring the exact same brain you're using right now. Think about it. Biologically speaking, we humans are incredibly weak. We don't have fangs, we don't have claws, we're slow, and our skin is super thin. Out in the brutal prehistoric wild, going solo wasn't some cool lifestyle choice, it was a literal death sentence. The single ultimate superpower that kept our ancestors alive was the pack. Having a group meant someone was there to watch your back while you slept.
And this is where it gets completely wild. Modern brain scanners actually show us that because being kicked out of the tribe back then meant certain death, the human brain installed an insanely powerful siren system. When you experience social rejection or isolation today, the exact same region of your brain lights up as if you just broke your leg or severely cut your hand. No joke. To our ancient primal brain, emotional pain and physical pain are literally the exact same thing. Your brain starts pumping out stress hormones, screaming, "Danger! Why are you alone? Who is protecting you right now?"
On the flip side of that, whenever you squeeze yourself into a crowded room, your brain just unleashes this massive flood of safety hormones. Your heart rate actually physically slows down. It's your biological safety net kicking in. And this right here is exactly why 90% of people subconsciously crave groups. They aren't just out at these loud bars looking for a fun time. Their brains are actively seeking out prehistoric protection. So when they see you happily eating lunch all by yourself, acting totally chill, their primal instincts scream that you're an absolute freak for not needing a guard duty. But as we know, evolution always creates exceptions. So let's get into the mechanics of that with Section 1, the neurochemical showdown, dopamine versus acetylcholine.
The real difference between the folks who panic when they're alone and the ones who absolutely thrive in quiet isn't just about personality. It's actually an underground war happening in your brain. On one side, you've got the dopamine addicts. People who love gathering and partying are fueled by dopamine. It's the chemical of external excitement. Meeting new people, feeding on drama, blasting loud music. To them, a chaotic crowd is a literal charging station. But your brain might be hooked on a much smoother, classier substance, acetylcholine. While dopamine is always looking outward for a quick, cheap high, acetylcholine looks inward. It bathes your brain in this deep, premium relaxation and absolute focus. You don't lack joy at all. You're just running on a much cleaner, more durable kind of fuel.
So the kicker here is that if you actually prefer solitude, it's because your brain is super sensitive to dopamine. That means a loud, crazy party isn't a reward for your nervous system at all. It's total sensory overload. It's practically torture. Have you ever gotten home from a social outing and just felt completely wiped out, like you've got a literal social hangover? That happens because your dopamine receptors get maxed out so incredibly fast by all that external noise that you actually need to lock yourself in your house for days of absolute quiet just to reset your neurochemical balance.
Which brings us to Section 2, the economics of friendship. The brutal truth we rarely talk about is that socializing is incredibly expensive. We really need to start treating it like a financial investment. I want you to imagine that you have to pay a literal acting fee every single time you interact with an acquaintance. I mean, think about it. How many times have you had to nod along to some agonizingly boring story just to be polite? How much sheer energy does it take to fake a smile, force a laugh at a terrible joke, or pretend to care about pointless workplace drama when all you want to do is go home? Most casual interactions force us to wear a mask, and keeping that mask up demands a massive, massive amount of brain energy.
Subconsciously, your brain is always doing the math on this. And look at this energy burn. If you're a picky investor with your mental energy, you figure out pretty quickly that faking your way through casual interactions can burn an entirely unsustainable 60% of your daily battery. The return on investment is just garbage. So what do? You quit playing the game, you pull back. Not because you're bad at building relationships, but because you'd much rather save that remaining energy for deep work, for exploring your own rich inner world, or for investing in just one or two truly important soulmates.
And this naturally leads into a really fascinating psychological concept known as the looking glass self. Basically, most people define who they are based entirely on the reflection and the approval of the people around them. They desperately need a crowd to laugh at their jokes just to feel funny. They have to count their virtual likes to feel like they have any value. They essentially turn themselves into puppets. But when you don't have a squad, you don't have that mirror to lean on. You are forced to look inward. When things get tough, you have to sit down, analyze yourself, and heal your own wounds. And doing that forges absolute, unbreakable autonomy. Your self-esteem becomes rock solid, because it's no longer built on the quicksand of public opinion.
Now I want to take a brief aside and be totally honest for a second. We definitely shouldn't over-romanticize every single aspect of this. For some people, being alone isn't a deep life philosophy, it's a defensive shield. Maybe you were heavily bullied, or maybe someone you completely trusted betrayed you, and your brain very logically installed a new formula that just says, humans equal pain. If you're someone who uses solitude defensively because of past trauma, I just want to gently remind you you are a survivor. Your brain is doing exactly what biology programmed it to do, protect you. Just please make sure your solitude remains a place to rest and heal, and doesn't slowly turn into a fortress of fear or a prison that keeps you locked away.
All right, moving to section 3. And this brilliantly illustrates our next concept, the empathy sponge paradox.
So, society loves to judge people who go it alone as cold, arrogant, or just completely unfeeling. But nature actually has a pretty ironic plot twist for us here. It turns out, people who prefer to be alone generally have sky-high empathy scores, not cold hearts. Think of your brain like this wildly overpowered emotional radar. You're an emotional sponge with absolutely no filter. If you see someone who is sad, you feel it right down to your core. Now imagine dropping that super sensitive radar at a crowded table of 6 people drinking at a bar. It's a chaotic mess of resentment, whining, hidden insecurities, and fakeness. While everyone else just sees a fun Friday night, for you, sucking up all that toxic energy is a full-scale nervous system attack. You end up dragging yourself home feeling like you literally just fought a war. You withdraw to protect your battery, not because you don't care, but because you actually care way too much, and you feel everything way too deeply.
Okay, let's bring it home with Section 4, the ultimate payoff of solitude.
Let's shift gears from defensive biology to offensive empowerment, because the ultimate payoff of solitude is massive. Just look at some of history's absolute greatest loners. Isaac Newton, Nikola Tesla, Beethoven, Picasso. I mean, do you really think these giants of history were spending their precious Friday nights out clubbing? Do you think they sat around their rooms nervously biting their nails over losing a follower on social media? No way. They were too busy hunting for legacy. They weren't wasting time chasing fast food dopamine and empty social laughs.
The real secret to their genius actually lies in something called the default mode network. This is a highly specialized brain state that only fires up during absolute silence and boredom. In our hyper-modern, super-noisy, notification-obsessed world, true boredom is practically extinct. But boredom is literally the holy ground for creativity. If you're constantly scrolling your feed or listening to idle gossip, where is the gap for $1 million idea to squeeze into your brain? By boldly cutting out useless socializing, you are reclaiming thousands of hours of your life to truly meet yourself and to innovate. Ultimately, we have to separate two concepts that people deeply, deeply confuse. Loneliness is the pain of being abandoned. But solitude? Solitude is the absolute pride of daring to stand alone. You know that old saying, you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with most? Well, if you have no friend group, congratulations, you aren't being deluded by anyone. Having no squad doesn't mean you're a glitch in the system. It means you are a perfect, undiluted original who is playing a completely different game from the rest of the world. So the next time someone asks you why you talk so little, or why you never want to go out to those noisy, crowded bars, you do not need to explain yourself. And you certainly never, ever need to apologize. Just smile. Because deep down, you know you aren't missing out on the fun. As the saying goes, you are just building a private empire in a world addicted to illusions. So let me leave you with this to think about today.